philosopher king fall under that word. Now, there's an interesting expression between this. The Platonic arts, these are the arts of the philosopher king, or it's simply the philosopher who seeks to rule himself. All of these arts, taken in its highest sense, by that I mean arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, and sometimes it's hyphenated astronomy harmony, and dialectic, are called the quadrivium, the four. There's another set called the trivium, grammar, rhetoric, and logic. The interesting thing you see is that these are two ways of expressing reason. These are two ways of expressing reason. This is the trivium. This is the quadrivium. They're totally different ways of expressing reason for one basic and fundamental difference. Rhetoric, grammar, and logic are all you need to become a social, political, in that everyday sense, man. Generic man. And the person who expresses this art typically is Cicero. And in the humanistic period, this is Petrarch, probably the most perfect example of it. In the Renaissance, correspondingly on this side, is Pico and Ficino. These are called Neoplatonists. They're also humanists in one sense, but these are pure humanists over here. I would like to stay on this for a moment and see why they're so different. In every one of these arts called the quadrivium, every one of them, there are two parts to it. Every one of them has two parts, a higher and a popular or lower. The higher arithmetic is not counting 1, 2, 3, 4, but raising that most interesting of all questions, what after all is the nature of the one in itself? To ask that question, obviously, is not the same thing as teaching people arithmetic on the level of, would you please go through the procedures that will allow you to master the use of numbers in various combinations. Geometry in the same way. Geometry, the lower part, is what is taught in the schools, which is how to handle different kinds of geometric figures and discovering the rules of their combinations and what axioms are necessary and propositions are necessary. Definitions, etc., to pull together into a unity. The higher aspect of it in the Republic is to learn to contemplate, to draw the mind away from the world of becoming to the world of being. Whatever difficulties you encounter in this curious thing called contemplation is the very study of astronomy on the higher level. Therefore, Plato takes a look at this and he says, through Socrates, of course he uses Socrates, he says, the understanding is what man has which must turn from the world of becoming, the everyday world, and turn it upon the world of being. Being. Magical word, major word in this whole system. That is called reality in the symposium. When one breaks through and has a vision into the nature of reality, that experience is experienced as pure beauty or the perfection of beauty. That's the whole goal. What is it? The whole goal of the quadrivium, in the hands of Plato and the Neoplatonists, is to awaken the understanding so we can move from the everyday world, train the understanding, and prepare it for vision. That's understanding. That's what he calls it. The end of the end of book 6, he says, we're going to have to come up with a name for this. And he talks about there may be a little difficulty in deciding on what it is. He says, but let's not worry about it. Let's call it understanding. That's the key. That's the passageway into this world of Neoplatonic thought. What is it? It's using the understanding through these disciplines to train it, to awaken it, in order to prepare it for vision. What kind of vision? A vision into the nature of ultimate reality. Now that's not this kind of reason. That's not this kind of reason. This kind of reason is orderly. It addresses itself to learning how to write properly and communicate properly. It has a great interest in the magnanimous man of Aristotle, the goal of the magic man. Magic in the sense that that's the goal of Aristotle, become a magnanimous man, become an idol in society, be able to speak eloquently, to be able to be a social being, to be most fully a man. That's not this. That's not. Socrates can't be accused of that. He's over here. Now I have a couple of very interesting lines I would like to read to you about how these two figures are contrasted. Pico, Ficino, and over here, our good friend Cicero and Petrarch. And I'm going to quote from a very beautiful book, which I often enjoy looking at, Giordano Bruno by Francis Yates. So let me just, I really think that it could be extended because it's such a nice way of representing these two types of people in history, kind of archetypal, very much like what Jung does in his study of personality types when he picks Origen and Tertullian as the basic models for archetypal representations of modes of thought and ways of relating to reality. The two traditions appeal to entirely different interests. The humanist's bent is in the direction of literature and history, and he sets an immense value on rhetoric and good literary style. The bent of the other is towards philosophy, theology, and also science as originally conceived. That's my comment, originally conceived. For Pico, I'm skipping. I'm on page 160, 161. For Pico, the dignity of man consists in man's relation to God, but more than that, in man as the magus, the magic, with the divine creative power. Above all, it is their relation to religion, Christianity, that the difference between these two traditions is most profound. The humanist, Cicero, of course, and Petrarch, of course it only falls for Petrarch since he's the only one who could be a Christian. The humanist, if he is a pious Christian like Petrarch, uses his humanistic studies for moral improvement, studying the great man of antiquity as examples of virtue from which the Christian may derive profit.